Hi everyone, thanks for joining us again. Today I'm going to be doing a quick kit review on the Panzer Kampfwagen 2 Ausf F and G in 1/35 scale by Tamiya. This is a pretty old kit. So this one dates back to 1971, it actually says on the side of the box there. So this has been around for some time. However, it's still not too bad, especially for the price you pay. This one cost me the princely sum of 20 Australian dollars delivered, so maybe what, 15 US roughly, somewhere there. A little bit more, 16 US maybe. Yeah. Anyway, so not much at all, and that was delivered to the house. So let's just have a quick look here, and we'll start off with the instructions. So there's a couple of sets of instructions, obviously one in English, one not. And it goes through a fair bit of the history of the vehicle, which is pretty cool. So where it's been, what its uses were, production runs, etc., etc. So it's got a lot of info there, and it's battle history in North Africa too, which is pretty cool. On this part of the sheet as well, it calls out identifying marks or features and painting instructions for the figures that come with the kit. So it's not just the tank; you get a tank commander and 4 infantry figures as well. And then on the reverse side, we've got the instructions. So as it says here, Ausf F and G, and basically just having a quick read through the instructions. What it says in regards to the F model and G model differences, essentially in the construction, is the rear of this turret bit here. You don't put the vision port on the back because you're going to be fitting that on. Or the bin on the back of the turret for the G version, apparently. There's also a difference with the aerial, but other than that, construction appears to be very similar, and it shows you here. So you got the picture of the G with the bin and the different aerial, and we'll touch more on that about the different marks a little later in the video. But yeah, so it's got a bit of info there, which is pretty good. Colour sheet, so you actually get quite a few options for painting. Unfortunately, this doesn't come translated, but yeah, it's going to be pretty simple. You're going to have your desert yellow. Now I'd have to double check, but this might be green or a red splotching on the tank. It could even be the German tank grey. So just do a little bit of research on that and have a look and see which particular vehicle you want to paint up. But yeah, it's got the decals for all 5 of the different variants, different models there, which is great. And yeah, pretty cool. Nothing on the back of that. There's our, I believe it's Japanese instructions. And just having a quick look at our decal sheet. So the decal sheet is actually quite nice. They seem to be printed very well. Not often, I can't see anything off register that looks quite good. I have had people say that they find that these decal sheets have been fragile and the decals have cracked or split or whatever, so just be gentle with them. Make sure you're applying them down on a nice gloss surface, and using plenty of mark softener to get them to sit properly. But yeah, other than that, I've never had an issue with them myself, but I have heard that said about Tamiya decals, so just be wary. Now the model itself, so let's have a quick look. Well, first thing we'll look at is the lower hull. So the lower hull, all your suspension is moulded into the lower hull, which is a bit unusual for most kits these days. You'll have that as a separate assembly, but it is an older kit, so that's to be expected. Other than that, it's not too bad. There's a few little sick marks at the back here, but they're only really tiny. So just a tiny bit of filler in those and just sand it back so it's nice and flush. It may, you know what, they're so shallow you might not even need to fill them. You might just get away with sanding it, but yeah, pretty tiny, and that's just for these points on the back here that have sunk through. Other than that, I could not find any defects on the bottom of the hull, and considering it's 1971, the quality of production in this kit is fantastic. It's really, really good. I mean, there are some manufacturers that still don't produce kits like this these days, up to the same quality of production. Holes in the bottom, so some of you might be aware you used to be able to get little engines and things for these, and battery powered and run them around or whatever.
I don't know if you still can. It's not something I've ever looked into. But if you want to fix up the bottom of the hull, it's easily enough done. But yeah, all your mold marks are on the inside of this, so there's nothing on the outside really to tidy up except for the back bit there. And the hole's here. Top of the hull. So let's have a look at that there. And the detail on this, for its age, is excellent. It is really well done. I couldn't find any defects on this. You'll see the parts here where it's just come off the sprue. It's easy enough tidied up. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's moulded very, very well. So, and very crisp. So yeah, great. Looking forward to making this one. You've got your injector marks on the back here, I think they're called. You may need to tidy those up a little bit, but the track will be sitting up quite high to them, so I honestly don't think you'll notice them once it's completed. So I wouldn't go to too much trouble there, but you can always do a test fit. Double check. Now, just talking about the tracks really quickly. We've got our rubber tracks, or vinyl tracks, whatever you want to call them. A lot of people don't like these. I've never really had a problem with them, and to be 100% honest, I quite prefer to make kits with this, because I don't like spending days putting individual track links together. I mean, I built the Dragon Panzerkampf Wagon 2 Off C, it was one of the Dragon Smart kits in 135, and putting the tracks together was just horrendous, and because they're so small and fiddly, and it was not enjoyable at all, to be honest. So, not for me anyway. I'm sure there's plenty of people that enjoy that sort of thing, but I'd just rather get on with it. But yeah, so these are here. You don't need to worry about, one objection people have for these is the sag of the tracks. So obviously these are made of metal, and in real life, tanks like the Panzer 5 or the Panther, so I'll just show you this here. You would have seen my review on this. You can see the tracks come up and they sag onto the top of the road wheels there. So it's returning this way. And, you know, you've got a fair bit of sag there. You don't need to worry about replicating that with the Panzer II, because it's got the return rollers and there's very little actual sag. If you look at most of the photos, there's very little sag evident on the tracks. So I wouldn't worry too much about that with this, to be honest. Certainly if you've got a tight track on the Panther 5, it's going to, you know, come down along here, and you're going to have to figure out how you're going to bring it down. There are various ways of doing that. But with the Panzer II, it's not going to be as big a headache. Moving on. Polycaps. So we've got our little poly bits for the road wheels. And here's our turret. So we've got our turret. Turret's moulded nicely. That's the bottom part, obviously. The turret ring. That's the rear bin. And we've got our exhausts and different bits and pieces here. Driver's visor. For some of you that may be wondering what that is next to the visor, it's not another visor. To my understanding, it's actually a fake visor. So it was actually cast of aluminium and fitted to the front of the tank to keep the weight down, but it was to try and distract gunners from shooting directly at the driver's visor, so they had two targets as opposed to one. I believe that was the thinking behind it. The only part that I really found to have issues on this, I mean, these are all really well made, there's no flash or anything, but on the back side here, you can see the tracks that go on the front of the vehicle. Right, so they go there. Now, I'll double check it, but I'm pretty certain you're going to have to fill those. Let's just have a, yeah, no, you're going to have to fill those injector marks there, and there's 3 of them. Bit hard to see. They're not overly deep, it's just a pain in the backside. I understand why they're there as opposed to not on the back, but still, it's a hard to get to spot. That's really the only correction issue that I've found. But other than that, yeah, everything's been pretty good. All your road wheels, return rollers, your idlers, sprockets, everything's really well done, nicely moulded. So there's no massive issue with cleanup there. First crew figure. So we've got our little guy here. This is the commander of the tank, and we'll just zoom in on him a little bit so you can just check out his detail a little bit more. He's not too bad. For the age of the kit, I think he's quite good. Now certainly you could update it with a resin figure, or even some of the more main produced ones now would have probably better detail in this, but he's okay for the era. He's not too bad. Mold marks, so he's got a few mold marks on him either side, seam lines, whatever, that you just need to clean up. That's pretty standard with injection molded figures. So yeah, he's pretty cool. There's no real pin marks or injection marks on this guy that I've been able to find. You can't say the same for the 4 infantry figures, however. So we've got the 4 infantry figures here, and once again they're molded fairly well. The detail on them is not too bad, and we'll just zoom in on one of these little guys here for you so you can have a look. So the detail on them is pretty good. They've still got the seam lines, but they do have the pin marks on the back of them. So you can see that right in the middle of his back there, one on the back of the leg. Same with this bloke. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Zoom in, please. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So you can see that there on his back and back of the legs. Same with this bloke. There again. So a bit of tidying up to make them reasonable. But considering what you pay for this kit, a little bit of cleaning up is not a heck of a lot to ask. It's very cheap, so, and you get a lot for what you pay for. So let's have a quick look at the last sprue. So all of these sprues come bagged, which is great. It's pretty standard with Tamiya. You got all their fittings for the infantry here. These here, it doesn't actually call them out in the instructions. I'm assuming they're just bases to stand the infantry on. There's one with the commander as well. I'll just go back to his sprue so you see that there. So I'm assuming that's just, if you're not gluing onto a base, you can set them up next to your tank, whatever, which is not a bad idea. So not something I'd do, but certainly if you're a younger person and you just want to paint them up and have them sitting there, nothing wrong with that. So there you go, all good. Now, just a few issues that I wanted to cover just regarding the designation of the vehicle. Now this is probably a part where I'm going to get a little bit boring for some people, so I do apologise, so bear with me. Panzerkampfwagen to Ausf F and G. To my understanding, in the instructions it basically points out, it says here, giving the info of the vehicle, that the Ausf G was essentially the same tank. It had the dustbin on the back, whatever, but it also had a different 20mm gun. So it had the 20mm gun KWK-38 as opposed to the KWK-30, which comes on the standard Mark II. I don't know how accurate this is, and I was hoping someone could drop us a little bit of advice and put it in the comments. To my understanding of it, the Ausf G was a different vehicle. So to my understanding, the Ausf G was this little guy here. And as you can see, it's very up-armoured. So the front of the profile of the tank is looks a lot stockier, a lot heavier. Also the road wheels are overlapping road wheels, and they don't have return rollers on them. So it's a different setup for suspension. Now that's the VK901, if you're wanting further details on it, but Panzerkampfwagen 2 Ausf G. I believe that was the Ausf G, and then they went on to the Ausf L and further models. Now, it wasn't until the Ausf J that the 20mm KWK 38 was brought in, to my understanding. So, and that's a very different tank. So I don't quite know where they've referenced the G. Check your history on that a little bit more. I mean, certainly there were a lot of variants of this vehicle. They made 2 self-propelled artillery pieces with a 15cm and a 10.5. They had the a bridge layer. They had a Schwimmwagen. They had 2 Marder 2s. So they had one with a captured 7.62 Russian gun on it, another one with a 7.5 German. No flame tanks. They had quite a few things with this vehicle. So certainly saw a lot of development, and I'm sure there were a lot of short run prototypes and projects like that along the way. But yeah, if anyone knows really if Tamiya is just saying that the G is just a variant, like a late variant of an F production model maybe, so the just changes in production along the line, I don't know. Yeah, so anyone can clarify that for us, that would be fantastic. I know there's a lot of you out there that don't care, but it's something that's kind of bugging me. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, by all means feel free to shoot me a message. Don't forget to check out my Etsy site. I'll put the link down there below. We've got the art prints. And if you want to see more of these videos, please like, share, subscribe. Do all the following. That'd be great. I really appreciate the support, everyone. And yeah, we'll speak to you very soon. Cheers.